Good evening, everyone. Council will now call to order a hearing on an ordinance which was advertised for hearings and consideration this evening. The ordinance is a zoning ordinance amendment which would rezone the Naval Air Station, referred to as the base, to be consistent with the reuse plan as approved by this community and the federal government in 2014. This ordinance is very general and simply divides the residential areas from the non-residential areas. We anticipate a second ordinance in a few months, which will be more specific in categorizing zoning areas. This hearing is your chance to let council know what you think about the ordinances. Mr. Walker will provide more detail on the changes which are being made, and then you will have a chance to make comments. Mr. Gildo Walker.
Okay. All right, so we are starting the process, and the purpose of tonight's hearing is to start the rezoning process as per the approved redevelopment plan. As Mr. Wade said, the redevelopment plan was approved in 2014, but actually it was in 2012. But it was a federally, it went on for 2 years here in Horsham Township, 2011 and 2012 with very public meetings. And basically it wasn't council at that time. Many of these people sitting here, in fact, I think it's only one, when the approved redevelopment plan for the base was approved. And who gets to approve it is the federal government. And we go through the process, and we did go through the process in 2011 and 2012 for the redevelopment. And the community was very heavily involved with that. We had sometimes 300 to 400 people at meetings and charrettes and getting all their input of what they wanted to see happen on the base. Other purposes of why we're doing the rezoning is to be proactive, to be protective, to continue to show good faith with the United States Navy and our continued negotiations with them. What is not happening, because there's been some misinformation out there and confusion, not knowing with some of the residents, there is no property being transferred at this time from the United States Navy to the township. There's no land development plans for the Navy base. And there's no construction occurring at this time for the Navy base. So proactive and protective. Currently, the entire base is zoned industrial. Almost the entire base, not almost. The entire base is zoned industrial. Someone might add, okay, so it's industrial. If you go down to the shore, this is a map, a satellite photo. Down here is the Commodore Barry Bridge. This is New Jersey, 322. If you ever go that route, going down to the shore over New Jersey, all of these buildings, all of them, you can even see, and they keep going. There's the last one there. You can see the corner, are warehouse distribution centers that only tractor trailers come and go from. There are no jobs. There's no people. And it's a sea of these warehouse distribution centers on 322 over the Commodore Barry Bridge in New Jersey. That is what is allowed in industrial zoning in Horsham Township. That's what we don't want. That's what we wanted to protect ourselves from. So when we say we want to be protective, that's why council has decided to move forward with rezoning. Another thing we want to protect is all the investment that has been made. I'm going to show you a timeline soon. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent in preparation for this redevelopment of the base when it does start to happen. We've expanded our sewer treatment plant, $20 million. Planning for public water, Blair Mill Road widening. All of this is related to the redevelopment of the base and planning for the future of this community. The Eastern Road and Moreland Avenue intersection that was just recently done. The Horsham Road and Limekill Pike intersection that we hope to start construction next year on. The Horsham Road Bridge replacement and Horsham Road widening. The Route 611 Corridor Improvement Plan, plus many more. The school district built Hollowell Elementary School for the base, to take on the kids, the additional students from the base. Hollowell's only half full because the design of that school is for the kids that will be coming from the base. So the school district even was proactive in planning for the base and invested in funding and being proactive. So again, tens of millions of dollars have been already spent and will be spent. So we want to protect those investments. Another thing, sometimes we are not sure what is happening, whether and what will happen. So we want to protect this community. And sometimes things will be good and sometimes things will be bad, but we don't know what's coming around the corner sometimes. So by starting to zone the property as the community has planned, as the approved plan shows, we are protecting ourselves and this community. We also continue to make progress with the Navy in negotiations, and our rezoning shows the Navy that the township is continuing to be serious in the negotiations and moving forward to make the redevelopment plan happen. So this is a map of the current base. It's the lime green, I guess you could call it. That's all I-1. That's all industrial zone. That's the current zoning of the base. This is the redevelopment plan that was approved. We call it a bubble plan, but this is the redevelopment plan that we work with and that was approved, and that we will be working at zoning the base for this plan to happen in the future sometime. This is a timeline, so many of us that have grown up here and been here for a while know that the base was listed by Congress in 2005 to be closed. I'm not going to go through all these years. The important years, 2005, 2012 is when the redevelopment plan was finalized. The negotiations with the Navy, the PFAS has slowed us down. But also in 2024, last year, a term sheet was signed with the United States Navy. Someone might ask, what is a term sheet? It's like an agreement of sale in the private sector. So progress is being made with the negotiations with the Navy. But there's a lot of different things going on in Washington right now. And that's why we also want to watch ourselves and watch our community. So here it is. This is what is being looked at tonight and being considered by council. As you see, it's split in half. This is the line here. So the yellow would be all R1 residential zoning, and the other more eastern side would be what we're calling right now the Business Park District 2. Many of you are familiar with our Pennsylvania Lifestyle Campus on Drescher Road and Horsham Business Center. All of that is our Business Park District. So this would be Business Park District 2. So what would be allowed in R1? It would be allowed, this is currently what is allowed in R1 in our township would be woodlands, agriculture use, parks, open space, municipal utilities, and most of the time what gets developed in R1 is single-family detached dwellings. In the Business Park District 2, research and development facilities, office buildings, medical dental offices, schools, restaurants, recreational facilities, art studios, daycare centers, financial institutions, and again, parks and open space. Our next steps. So as we said, this is what we'll call more of a protective zoning, what we can get done quickly. But there's two other steps that we're working on also is the official map. What the official map will show is designated areas for public lands and facilities on the base, which would be for streets, water courses, public grounds, parks, open space, stormwater management, public support facilities for the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority. Where would any water tanks go? Where would sewer pump stations go? Where would, if we need a second small sewer treatment plant, where would that go? We're working on that official map now. We're looking to have that in front of council in August and September for their consideration. And then the final piece that we're looking at getting done by this year is the comprehensive rezoning. So you saw the redevelopment plan. There's a lot more in there than just R1 and Business Park District 2. So we just felt comfortable that we wanted to get something out there, something done quickly to protect the community. Right now we are negotiating with the Navy. That's going very well, but you just never know. There's a lot of other people in the Department of Defense, in the Pentagon, in Washington, and you just don't know. So we wanted to protect the community from the base being sold as just industrial site. So the comprehensive zoning, we're looking at getting in front of council in November, December for their consideration. And that comprehensive zoning will match the development plan that you saw earlier. It'll match that more than just dividing it in half right now, like I showed earlier, right, that one. So that's what is in front of council tonight, to consider that ordinance to divide the base in that fashion between R1, changing it from industrial zoning and dividing it in half between R1 and Business Park District 2.
Thanks for that presentation, Mr. Gilday-Walker. I'm going to open it up to the community. If anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to come up. I just ask that you say your name and address. So feel free to come up and comment.
Yes, my name is Joe McGrath, 32 Barber Road, Hapro. Naturally, my kids were Hapro Horsham students, so I'm a taxpayer in the township here. But my question is, and it's probably too early based on what you're saying, school, I saw on the map, too early to determine level, elementary versus... We allocated 40 acres to the school district. We don't know how they're going to use it. Okay.
It might not be a school at all, but it could be an athletic fields. We don't know how they're going to use the 40 acres.
The same goes for fire
It was going to be the Keith Valley Middle School.
Okay. Okay.
But this has gone on a long time, as you know, Joe, and they had to build a new middle school elsewhere.
Absolutely. The other question was fire services. That's a large area. Can the firehouses at distance support what's going on there, or do you have to put another firehouse in there?
I don't have that immediate answer, but we work closely. I see some of them in the back. So that will also come into play when we develop. This would be a phased-in development. I won't be sitting here when it's done.
Okay.
The earliest that anything could start, I mean, if everything went well with the United States Navy, maybe 5 years from now, something would start. But, and it being phased in and the areas that still need to be cleaned up and they're working on cleaning up, 20 to 30 years out when the whole entire site is developed out.
Okay. The same for a question about a PFAS filter. There's filters, once again, distance. Would you need a filter right at ground zero?
Oh, yes.
Or is that too early?
No, they're working on that. The EPA and the DEP, Pennsylvania DEP, they're working on all that. We don't know what the land regulations will be. We're looking at, right now, phase 1 and phase 2 to be the areas that are not contaminated. Mm-hmm. So there are areas on the base. It's a large base, as we all know. So there are areas that are not contaminated. Mm-hmm. So those are the phases that we're negotiating with them on right now.
Okay. Okay. And my last one would be originally, I believe, a veterans homeless center. But I did not see that on the list. Once again, maybe it's early.
Yeah, that's on the plan.
To identify that?
That's on the plan. It's permanent supportive housing. And the concept is for veterans. And that's right here on the plan.
Okay, okay.
So it's still there.
Would that be considered a BCHG?
It's BCHG, the Bucks County Housing Group, because they combined with Genesis in Montgomery County to develop the agreement and of what would be there.
Okay.
So that's what that abbreviation is.
Okay.
But,
Thank you.
yep.
My name is Mark Zlotnick. I live at 640 Searle Drive in Hatboro. Worst case, if it were to be zoned industrial and gets built up the way you had presented it was in Jersey, would our current infrastructure, like the 611 corridor, support all the vehicles, trucks, whatever, that would most likely be generated by that construction?
I think as residents, we would say no. The
Right.
township would say no. How much of that say we would have, since 611 is owned by PennDOT and the Willow Grove interchange is owned by the Turnpike Commission, I don't know that they would agree with that.
Because I've been at the property about 39 years, and I recall in the past the plans to widen 611, right, to make it more lanes. But then construction was taken down and rebuilt, and there was really no movement towards widening 611. So it's almost like a lot of opportunity was lost in that regard. So I'd be surprised if it was capable of handling. The other thing is, if the current ground is still owned by the Navy, who maintains the actual ground? So who mows the lawn, for instance?
The Navy.
Okay.
The Navy has private contractors.
So do they have a schedule where they keep it looking as it should in the community? And be more specific.
Well, yeah.
In the past, the thistles were allowed to grow like this tall.
If
And
they have
they
a
would,
schedule, it's a secret schedule.
And there were times on my property, I'm not kidding, and you would think it was snowing outside in the summertime, and here it was these thistle seeds, and they just took over. They took over everybody's yard. They're tough to get rid of. So a lot of gardens and whatnot, and you see all the people spraying the poisons, and I'm sure that doesn't help the water supply. So keeping it down so that doesn't happen is appreciated. So.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Mark.
Anyone else?
Yes, Amanda.
Just want to thank the people who came out to be part of the hearing, to learn more about it, and to our commenters tonight. You brought up some great points. Thank you.
And I would encourage you, there's a website dedicated to this whole base redevelopment, hlra.org. So the Horsham Land Redevelopment Authority, and they post out updates and information on that site. So if you want to keep updated on the base, the www.hlra.org has all the most updated news about the base.
Great, thanks everybody for coming tonight and taking interest in the community. At this point, I'm going to close the hearing, and I'm going to announce that council will vote on the ordinance as part of the 8 o'clock meeting.
8 or 4. You guys ready to rock?
All right, calling the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first I want to congratulate all of our residents. How about now? All right, we'll pick things back up. Opportunity for questions and comments from the public. Anybody has anything to say, please just state your name and address. No? All right, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
Mic on? The balance in the general fund as of May 31st, 2025 is $8,391,087.29. For the most part, the activity in all funds reflects budget expectations for May, with revenues in the general fund at 73.73% of budget and expenditures at 35.83% of budget. We continue to monitor our revenue that has been affected by numerous factors to include property reassessments by the County Board of Assessments and the courts. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
All right, do we have a motion for the treasurer's report?
I move to ratify the list of checks in all funds from May 15th, 2025 to May 28th, 2025 in the amount of $195,291.90 and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to approve the list of checks in all funds from June 6th, 2025 to June 11th, 2025 in the amount of $678,984.35 and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of May 2025 in the amount of $23,094.39.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is consider the following subdivision and land development plans. Strategic Asset Holdings Incorporated, 186 Horsham Road, 25-06-D, and Sunoco Metal Packaging, LLC, 431 Privet Road, 24-14-Delta-D.
They have both plans have been reviewed and recommended for final approval by the Township Planning Commission. Both plans have been reviewed by Township Council. In your packets and for your consideration this evening are the resolutions for approval. We do have their agreement to accept conditions for both plans.
We have a motion for 186 Horsham Road.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary final approval to Strategic Asset Holdings, Inc., 186 Horsham Road, Land Development Plan 25-06-D.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glunster, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Saff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Right. Next is do we have a motion for 431 Privet Road?
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary final approval to the Sunoco Metal Packaging LLC, 431 Privet Road, Land Development Plan 24-14-D.
Been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glunster, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next item on the agenda is to consider an ordinance amending the Horsham Township zoning ordinance and map to facilitate the implementation of the final preferred land use plan for the former Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Willow Grove.
I move to adopt the proposed ordinance, amending the proposed township zoning ordinance and map as per the approved final preferred land use plan for the former Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base at Willow Grove.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glunster, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next item is to review the following subdivision and land development plan. Chapman Auto Group, 1020 Easton Road, 25-07-D.
And the Chapman team is here, so this is a land development plan for a new approximately 11,000 square foot service garage. And I will, instead of them saying everything again, I'll just let their team present.
Good evening, Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. I have to my right Chad Brenziger from Shoemaker. To the right of him is Rachel Valley, our landscape architect. Representatives from Chapman are here. Randy Chapman's in the back, and Tom Bora, if you have any questions for them. We are here to discuss 1120 Easton Road. You may know this as the old, I call it the golf property, where the miniature golf was. Chapman purchased this property about 6 to 7 years ago, and since that time developed an 8-bay service building along the frontage, with the rear of the property remaining vacant. There we go, thank you.
Do you need a
So,
pointer?
and I found my laser pointer. I cleaned out a handbag and found it, thank you. So this is the service building that we're talking about today. It's right along 611. You should note that this was approved a number of years ago. I think it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And we closed off access along 611, put in the improvements as you require. There's sidewalks along the frontage, street trees and things like that. We don't plan on changing any of that. There is an internal connection to the Chapman property, which is what we want to do, but we want to do it back here. Chapman has a need for another service building. This one will be a little different. It'll have 11 bays. The original application was for 12, but it's for 11. You'll see on the plan, it has one garage door coming in, one garage door going out, and those garage doors do remain closed. It is air conditioned, so there's no need for those bays to stay open. Everyone asks, what are your plans for the remainder of the property? And the Chapmans say, we don't know. Things change constantly in the car business. Tariffs on, tariffs off. You know, what's the latest development? So they are addressing this current need. This service building is not for the general public. We could turn to the plan, maybe. So here it is here. The interconnection would be here. Chapman's own a number of properties along here. One of the comments in the review letters was that we have a cross-access easement, which is not a problem. Only Chapman employees would take the cars. If people need service, they would bring it to the front of the Ford building. And then Chapman employees would bring it to this service center and then bring it back. So the general public does not have access to this property. So again, no use of the access on 611. Pretty much the same way this works is how this will work. Back in February, the Chapmans invited the adjacent property owners to sort of meet and greet at their facility to introduce this project. They do have normal communication with Mr. Slotnick, who's here in the front. We did go to the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago or last week, and some of the neighbors came. They had concerns about stormwater management. There will be a basin back here. We're able to capture the stormwater, and there is an existing pipe that goes under this parking lot and then releases across their property. Another easement is necessary for that. Again, no problem. Chapman owns that property. General concerns, usually the lights that occur living next to an auto dealership is not easy when it comes to lighting. The Planning Commission asked us to look at some lighting. There was a light on a shed back here. We said we would look at that. They did give us a recommendation for both preliminary and final. That's why we're here. We have the review letters. Everything is a will comply, but for the waivers. I do have copies of the waivers, which I'd like to hand out to you.
Okay, we're good. Everybody has, do you have one?
I'll take your paper.
You'll take one? I know that Sean won't take paper from me, but.
It's nothing personal.
I know. Anyone else?
got it.
Paper. Anyone? Okay.
I'm good. What's
Look at that. You're starting a trend, Sean. Okay. Is it okay if I go through the waivers?
As long as
What's
they
the
match the
date?
paper.
June 3?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. First one has to do with scale. It should say 40 feet, 1 inch equals 40 instead of 1 inch equals 10, but that's a typical waiver for the plan scale, and I know that Gilmore doesn't have a problem with that one.
Any issues with that, Jeff?
As she stated, we have no issues with it.
Number 2, also typical, we give an aerial plan instead of existing features within 400 feet. No issues, right, Jeff?
Also, no issues with the aerial as a substitute.
Number 3, interior curb, your code requires 8-inch curb reveal. We're asking for a 6-inch interior curb. That's typical as well, since it's interior to the site.
That's correct.
Number 4, your code requires 18-inch diameter pipe. We have a number of pipes that are under 18-inch, but the stormwater management does work. I don't think Gilmore has an issue with that one either.
All of the calculations work.
Number 5, preliminary and final at the same time. Again, typical, we're able to show both preliminary and final requirements in our plan set. Jeff agrees. Number 6, this is typical as well, the freeboard requirement of 2 feet. We do have the capacity in the basin to meet the requirements, and I know that that's not a problem either.
That is correct.
The detention basin, we have a flat slope in order to do BMPs. Your code requires 2%, and I know, no problem.
Yes, current design practices allow for flat bottom basins.
Number 8, there's a requirement that the distance, your discharge point be within 50 feet of a property boundary. Our discharge, like I said, there's a pipe that connects in the back corner and it discharges way down a little bit. So that's the reason for that waiver, but we're connecting into an existing system. We just have to provide that easement and that's no problem.
Correct.
Number 9, the width, and we're asking for 10 by 18 parking spaces instead of 10 by 20. This is interior to our site. Chapman is in charge of moving these vehicles. It's not a shopping center where we need the larger spaces. No problem, right, Jeff?
Correct, not for public use.
Okay, number 10, we are doing a tree survey. We're just asking to put it on the existing features plan instead of a separate tree survey plan. We're going to do the work, we just want to do it on existing features.
Fine.
We do have trees along this edge here and along this edge here.
None of them are getting taken out. None of them are being removed, right?
There is some removal in this area here for this basin.
Okay.
Something else, just to point out that we discussed with the Planning Commission, we showed your code requires a landscape buffer along the perimeter of the property. What we submitted was landscape buffering along our area of disturbance, which would be here. You know, we thought about it and said, why don't we just go ahead and put this buffer in along the edge? If we plant it now, it can grow and let the neighbors enjoy that buffer. And by the time there's any further development, it will be more mature. Anything we put in the middle may have to be removed, so we thought it was better planning to move that buffer, so that's why we don't have a waiver for that. We were going to ask for one, but we removed that. We're going to move that buffer. But there is a couple trees in here.
Okay.
Which leads to the next waiver. There's a conflict. We're putting plantings in here for the buffer, and then we also have basin plantings, and they're conflicting. We have a double requirement in the same space. So we're asking for a waiver for that double planting area. And lastly, there's a requirement that we have a loading and unloading zone. No loading and unloading is going to happen as part of this project. All loading and unloading goes on the main Chapman property. And that is it.
All right. Anybody have any issues?
Mr. Zlotnick, do you want to say anything while we're talking about it?
Again, my name is Mark Zlotnick, 640 Searle Drive. This will probably be a repeat of what I said at the Planning Commission, so you most likely heard this. So I do share 170 feet of border with the current CNC. And probably to date, although it hasn't been in a while now, I probably returned in the neighborhood of 100 golf balls to the golf zone. That's how close I am to this property, so.
Is your property along one of these borders that shows here?
Back here?
Right up there.
Okay.
So speaking on behalf of the community, and I don't know how many are here from the community, but I've spoken to a number of neighbors, and I'm sure they share the same sentiment that I'm about to say. So the neighbors are concerned about the sights, sounds, and smells, right? The three S's of what would impact the neighborhood. So in terms of sights, you mentioned the lights, okay? So I'm going to bring up what took place probably in 2019 at the other C&C parcel. They changed from the normal halogen bulbs to the LED type style. And maybe they had an opportunity to change the entire fixture. I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't just a matter of screwing in a different bulb. But it made the light noise, the spray, much greater. The LED bulbs are much more efficient, much brighter. And I sent pictures to Tom Barrow, just showing him what my kitchen looks like at nighttime with all the other lights off. It just lights it right up. So I don't know if there was a permit for that. If there was, I would challenge it. I don't know who the inspector was, because it just no way it can pass the ordinances for light noise. I don't know if there's going to be any tall structures there. Nobody can really say at this point. Sounds. So some of you might remember Develcom about, 15 years ago? Yeah. They had proposed a number of, property constructions there. And what they had offered was this border being set up with an 8-foot-high berm along with the vegetation, because they were going to put a CarMax there, okay? Now, nothing's going to prevent Chapman from putting a CarMax there. So putting just trees here, trees aren't going to stop noise. They just don't. I mean, I know it's said all the time, but let's be honest, they don't really stop noise. The berm was meant to stop any noise generated from the used car lot. So I just think that it's a little premature to think that, a row of trees is going to suffice for future construction that is yet undefined, right? So just a thought. And the smells, you did mention, there's no painting going on in this facility, right? This new one. That was another thing that we combated in the past, but there's going to be no painting being done. Is that something that could be confirmed? Or?
Yes.
Okay. The answer's no. And I was happy to see that the basin is going to have the connection to the stormwater. Initially, it wasn't, so I guess that's a change in the plans. And we were concerned about the mosquito growth and other types of toads and stuff. We had a toad infestation a few years back, but anyway. That's it. Thank you.
I think you said the bay doors are going to be closed while you guys are doing. You just open up the bay doors to move vehicles and then typically closed during operation.
Yes.
Dave, are you good with everything?
Yep, got it all down. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
I just want to ask Jeff, if there was to be further development on the remainder of the land at some point in the future, even if they planted a row of trees in the perimeter now, would that meet code or ordinances for plantings, or is there an opportunity, regardless of what occurs, in the future, that they might still have to install a berm at some point, depending on what's being developed there?
Sure. For the purposes of the requirements for neighboring, differing zoning districts and residential, it is the buffer requirements for plantings. There is no requirement for a berm in the ordinance and the code. That is something that usually is negotiated and discussed during the development process, depending on what the development is. So not knowing what that future development would be, it's hard to answer whether the trees would be sufficient for anything more than what they're intended, which is a visual barrier, buffer.
But there would be opportunity to negotiate at any point in the future, depending on what.
Absolutely.
Went on. Okay.
Yep.
We would need to file another application and come back in.
And from what I was reading from the review letter in section 4 about Saldo requirements, B21 talks about berm height, but it's not a requirement to have a berm. I just want to make sure I understand, because it speaks to the berm height of 10 feet cutoff trench, 8 feet wide, 3 feet deep. What would that be in reference to?
Oh, the cutoff trench, that's it's a keyway in the berm, basin berm.
In the basin?
That's a
But it's not
stormwater
a-
requirement. That is not a
Not a requirement
berm.
of the project?
Yeah, the berm you're referring to is the berm for the stormwater basin.
Okay, perfect. So wait, sorry. Does the stormwater basin have that berm involved?
So the comment in question is to prevent the lateral movement of water through the berm. It is required to have a clay keyway that is put inside the berm during the construction. That's what that is talking about. The berm is just is a byproduct of trying to hold back the water. So that elevation of that is determined by the stormwater design as far as how much water they're trying to detain and manage.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think that's it. Thanks for taking the time to come in tonight and present the plans.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
All right, next item on the agenda is to consider a resolution establishing a time and place for a public hearing on the adoption of the Horsham Township Comprehensive Plan, Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 7:45 PM in the Horsham Township Municipal Building, 1025 Horsham Road.
As council's aware, we've been working on our comprehensive plan for probably the last 2.5 years. Last year, you had your public hearing and your public open house, and the Township Planning Commission has approved it, and now the ball's back in your court to have one final public hearing before adoption on July 9th, but it's been a long process. We actually were done it last fall. It just got to our point now, getting it on your agenda for your consideration and notifying. We have to notify all of our contiguous municipalities. We have to notify the county, give them 45 days if they want to comment on our plan. So and that's all state law. So we're in that process right now, but all that will be wrapped up on July 9th. And our land planner, Marley Bice from the County Planning Commission, will be here on July 9th to give a presentation on the comprehensive plan, and then hopefully later in that meeting, you would consider it for adoption. It is on, if anyone's interested, it is on our website. So it's been on our website since probably about last fall. The draft comprehensive plan is on the website. Marley Bice, who's our land planner, her email's there too. In case you want to comment, you see something, you want to make a comment on something, you can send Marley an email for her to address what comments or questions you have.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing a time and place for a public hearing on the adoption of the Horsham Township Comprehensive Plan for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 7:45 PM in this auditorium.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Laff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next item on the agenda is to announce that the next Horsham Township Council meeting will be on Monday, June 23rd, 2025 at 7 PM.
National Night Out.
Excuse me?
National Night Out.
Nope. Okay. And mark your calendars now. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 5th from 6 PM to 9 PM at the Horsham Township Municipal Complex, 1025 Horsham Road. Thank you. And no other business being on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.